last thing, using the NFL, what was this? Perry Pick'em, courtesy of, what is this? Yeah, NFLPerry.com. There you go. So I got this graphic up. No, it is not active because I had to screenshot it. Cannot share. So cry about it. But Kush, we're going to go through and we're just going to go game by game real quick, rapid fire. Kush, you will tell me in the audience what is your score predict. I'm sorry, not score prediction, but what is your schedule? Yeah, record prediction. There you go. Sorry. What is your record prediction for the Texans in the 2026 season? Are you ready, sir?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, week one, Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans. Who we got, Kush?
Buffalo Bills, the Texans. The
Mhm.
Texans defense owns Josh Allen. I'm going 1-0. Josh Allen's coming to the House of Horrors. The defense is going to dominate him again. Texans get a week 1 win.
Okay, so 1-0 Texans. And by the way, Kush, I don't know if you saw this, but I've been broadcasting this to those who listen. I actually made a bet with a writer of the Buffalo Down, Brandon Ray. And I said that depending on which team wins or loses, if the Texans were to lose, I got to go through a table. Right. So that's on the line here. So I'm gonna need the Texans to clutch up here. I don't mind
For
doing
your
it.
sake, I hope the Texans win.
Look, I don't mind doing it. I'm even trying to put a charity kind of thing to this. So if we can maybe raise money for a charity, a children's fund, or something like that, I think that'll be pretty neat. So I don't know how that looks, but we're gonna try to set that up. But yep, that's on the line. So about to do that. All right, week two. Well, actually, I got to give my prediction. Um, mm, Week one is hard, man, because I believe as much as the Texans have dominated Josh Allen for years now, um, I just feel like the Buffalo Bills are due. I don't know why. I feel like they've been embarrassed so much, specifically in Houston, and they know it. It's like, oh man. So, but I'm gonna go Houston, man. I think the Texans are just best built to win this specific game early. I think the defense is gonna come out nasty, guns blazing. They may not get 6 sacks again like last year, but they're still going to harass Josh Allen. I think your secondary is going to be nasty, especially you added Reed Blankenship and Kamari Ramsey and Justin Reed is back and Jalen Smith and all these guys. Like, man, Derek Stingley might mess around and tie Jonathan Joseph in just this game in picks. So we'll see. But I'm gonna go Texans in a close win, man. Probably what 23-20 or 23-16, something like that. Not a blowout, probably by one score, but I think the Texans will pull it out late. Week two, Cincinnati Bengals versus the Texans. First time these two have played since 2023, where the Texans also won that game on a walk-off field goal. Kush, who do you have?
I'm going to go Texans win this one just because Joe Burrow and the Bengals have a bad reputation early on in the season. They play down to the competition a lot and they
Mm.
drop a lot of games early in the season, which to me is still confusing. But I think the Texans defense and their improved offense is going to be good enough to beat this team. I
Mm.
like what the Bengals have done in the offseason, but I'm going Texans in this one.
All right. Yeah, me too. Same reason as with the Bills, right? The Texans defense they just got it, man. They're going to harass Joe Burrow with Trey Henderson now being gone. And again, I haven't followed the Bengals' offseason moves as closely as I probably could, but I just know with losing Trey and you already had a historically poor defense last year, I just don't know how much that defense can really grow over one offseason and against this defense. So whatever improvements they made, I just think you're walking into a buzzsaw, especially because we're at Reliant. So I think the Texans go up 2-0 as well, sir. All right, first road game of the year, Texans Indianapolis. Who you got?
The Colts, I don't know what they're doing right now. The I kind of go back to the Sauce Gardner trade last season, and
Mm,
that still baffles me.
mm,
I think the Texans go in there and beat the Colts. Obviously, I think it's going to be close, but
mm.
I just don't like what the Colts have been doing this offseason. Um, Hell, I might go Texans in a blowout. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, man. No, again, Mike, Pat, and I, for episode one of We Won Houston, we talked about this. We talked about how the Colts, they just look like they're the team that is most primed for regression. And regression would be nice because you break it down. Jonathan Taylor's on the final year of his contract. He wants a new deal. Daniel Jones just got his leg back. Remember that. He had a fracture and then he had a ruptured Achilles. Alec Pierce is coming back from an injury. You trade Michael Pittman. You have Sauce Gardner, who he's coming back also from his, in his cap, but he look like he's fine. You release Kenny Moore, Trevarius Ward. I just hope the best for his health because with those concussions, I just don't know how much more you can expect from him. So you got all that going on. Then on top of that, you have Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, who are both, I want to say, in their last years of their deals, I think, or at the very least, they are definitively on the hot seat. I think the Colts, man, they just have a lot going on against a team
They
in the
just have
Texans,
way too many question marks up
bro.
there.
And I just think the Texans are right now. They're that buzzsaw that this is going to be a season long revenge tour. They want to get this bitter taste of defeat out of their mouth and embarrassment. I just think the Colts, I like how you said it. I think it's going to be blowout, maybe. Probably not like stupid blowout, but probably about like 10, probably double digit, something like that.
I think
But
so too.
so we're talking 3-0 Texans. Okay. Dallas Cowboys, we're back at home again. You got the in-state rivalry. Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans. Kush, who you got?
As far as the Dallas Cowboys, I was a little, last year I was kind of high on them, not for them to make the playoffs, but I thought they would be good. Their offense is amazing. Um, Unpopular opinion amongst the Texans fans out here. I'm a big Dak Prescott guy. He gets a lot of hate, but I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a crazy environment here in Houston with the Dallas fans and our Houston fans. I'm going to go the Texans. I think this one might be a shootout just because of how good that Dallas offense is. But I initially say that, and then I kind of look at our defense, and I think our defense can cause a lot of issues for that offense. And I'm just really looking forward to the environment of this game in the city of Houston. And Texans and Cowboys are always fun, man, with the fans. But I'm gonna have to go with the Texans.
Sure. So you got them 4-0, 4 up, 4 down. I respect it. I'm gonna be right there with you. Yep. I think so. Again, not to disrespect the Dallas Cowboys offense, they just re-signed Javante Williams to a new deal. So they want to run football, but we know their two nuclear weapons are their 2,000-yard receivers and C.D. Lamb and George Pickens. We know this. It's tough because with our secondary, while yes, they are very much locked down, the Texans are susceptible at times to the deep ball. And now sometimes it has to be like a perfectly placed one, right? Like literally dead zone drop, almost like a corner kick. Like people talk about it. Keyshawn Booty's play in the playoffs. I mean, literally Stingley was right there, no flag, and Booty had to lay out one handed. Like if you ran that back 10 times, he probably does not make that catch the other 8 times, right? So having said that, though, I think if they maybe either run bracket coverage or again the pass rush gets there and makes that offensive line's day terrible, I think you shut down that pass game enough, and I think you walk away with a win. Where it may be one of those Dallas Cowboy games where the Texans are blowing them out early, and then the Cowboys flourish, make a make a furious comeback attempt, and they lose by like what 3 to 5 points at the end. So I will also go Texans 4 up, 4 down, beating the Dallas Cowboys back at Reliance Stadium, and which would make it a clean sweep since 2024. And as an avid Dallas Cowboys hater, that makes me happy. So there you go. I don't mean literally hate, but I you know what? I'm leave that alone. I'm leave that alone. But next up, week 5, we got Tennessee Titans, or I guess the former Oilers. I don't know, the fake Oilers versus the Houston Texans of week 5. Kush, who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Texans. I will say that the Titans offseason, you know, it's kind of intrigued me with the new coaches that they brought in. Robert Saleh,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator is interesting. Um, I feel like a lot of people nationally are kind of high on the Titans this season.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that's going to play out, but it's always going to be a close game. It doesn't matter how bad the Texans have been or how bad the Titans are.
Mm-hmm.
This game when these two teams play, it's always close. Always had been, always will be. I think the Texans come away with a win in Tennessee.
See, this is where it gets dangerous because it's like all these W's that we're predicting, which are realistic, but it's like, dang it, I it's like you ever get that feeling where you don't want your team to lose, but it's almost like I need at least one or two to like not freak me out. I don't know how to deal with all the success, but no, I'm right there with you, man. I think the Texans go into Tennessee and they beat the Titans, making them what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-0, 5-0 against the Tennessee Titans. Now, and I'll agree. Cam Ward gave you problems in the second game last year. Cam Ward was tough. His accuracy may not have been anything to write home about, but he's a gamer. Look, he took I think a Daniil Hunter sack to the chest and. Got that ball out and did what he did against you and marched him down the field and I think took a lead late or made it tied. But you know that you're going to get a Titans team in Salah and Brian Daboll, who they have their own embarrassment they want to overcome. They have been one of the biggest dumpster fires in the NFL for years now. So at some point they don't want to be a doormat anymore, but it won't be today. It'll be Texans. So I got that 5-5 down. Next up, full disclosure, Kush, this is where I actually had the Texans dropping their first game. But Kush, I'll ask you. Texans, Jaguars, Wembley Stadium in London. Who do you have?
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. Um, I think the main thing is it being overseas. This version of the Texans with D'Amico Ryan, C.S. Stroud, our defense, all those guys. I believe they have never played an overseas game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Um, with Jacksonville, they're kind of used to it. They do it every single year. So I feel like it's advantage Jaguars in that aspect. Um, I'm gonna chalk this up as a loss. The Jacksonville Jaguars had a great year last season. A lot of people are picking them to kind of plummet and not do as well this season. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they're gonna be a good team. Obviously, the Texans can beat them. They have beaten them, but I think this being a London game kind of it just adds another wrinkle to this game, and uh, the Texans take their first loss of the season in London against the Jaguars. And I know a lot of fans are really excited for this one because it's the first
Mhm.
time since 2019, I think, that they played
Yep.
overseas.
Yep.
So
Against the same team in the Jaguars.
against the same team, yep,
Yep.
yep,
Remember that game? Carlos Hyde almost had a house call and he had the ball stripped out. So,
yep.
so yeah, that game. Yeah, so look, we both agree. Texans probably dropped this one. So what, 5-1 after the Wembley game. The only thing that will be annoying here slightly is that a lot of Jaguars fans, not all of them, but the Jaguars fans have a lot of small market energy that they operate with. Um, and it's like it'll just be like a bragging rights thing. It's gonna be annoying until about what week 15 when you can kind of pay that back. But they're gonna swear, like, oh yeah, that's right. You guys are, this and that. We're better than y'all, and Trevor Lawrence better than CJ. All this stuff, and it's like, okay, well, how did your wild card game go last year? How'd that go? I'm sorry. I happen to recall last year you did win the division by a game, right? But then you lost your one playoff
In the
game
first round of the playoffs, yep.
at home when the Texans traveled to Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers at Acrisure Stadium and put a 30-6 butt whooping on the Steelers and sent them packing home. So I'm sorry, but that's the thing. I don't want to be that way, but it's like that's what the rhetoric is going to be. All this stuff. So, but whatever. You're 5-1 after 6 weeks at Wembley. Follow that up with the Giants. And Kush, I will say this: as I was researching for like some writing pieces, weeks ago, months ago, I did not realize how much the New York Giants owned the Houston Texans. Like, but them and the Eagles, they have a gross, like, just obscene record against the Texans. Where I think it's like the Texans have not won a single game against the Giants, and if they have, it's been one. But it is this gross, imbalanced record. But Kush, week 7, the fighting Jackson Darts at Reliance Stadium. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go Texans. I think it's gonna be a close game. Um, but this is one that kind of trap game allegations, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
especially coming home after an overseas game in London. Maybe a little bit of a sluggish start we could see from the Texans, but I'm gonna go with the Texans. I do like what the Giants have been doing.
Mm,
Um, I think the Giants are going to be a team to watch out for in the NFC East.
mm.
With Jackson Dart and their defense and all their new head coach with John Harbaugh. Um, Texans take this one, man, into the bye week.
Sure. Yep, I got to pull it up here. The New York Giants lead the Houston Texans all time 5-1 in their all time series. So, if it was not one Manning and Peyton, it was the other and Eli that absolutely just mopped us up for years. So, yeah, man, this one I got the Texans winning. Also, I just think that, especially with them coming off a loss against the Jags at Wembley, they might be motivated, especially with the bye week coming up next. Shout out to the Raw Room because they will be the first one to tell you that you'd rather win that game going into the bye week than to not win that game. So therefore, I think the Texans end their first half of their season pre-bye week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, drop 6-1. It's a great record, solid. Great record. After that, you got the LA Chargers, who, let me just get this out there. I think the Los Angeles Chargers have the best PR team in football. I say that because for some reason, no matter how bad Herbert looks, no matter how bad the Chargers look, no matter how much they underachieve or what they don't accomplish, they will always end up in somebody's top 10 quarterbacks list, top 5 ASC teams list. Oh, this is going to be the year Harbaugh and Herbert, all this stuff. I don't understand it. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm really not trying to be that guy. But they just got to have the best PR team in the NFL. But Kush, week 9 after the bye, who do you have? Texans, Chargers on the road.
Man, I'm gonna predict this as a loss.
Mm,
I think this is a matchup, especially with their new offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel.
mm,
I think with the Chargers, I'll say the first 3 or 4 weeks, I think it'll take their offense a little bit of time, but
mm,
I think after that, if they can stay healthy, that offense is to me it has potential to be one of the scariest offenses, not just in like a scoring way and just like defensively going up against those guys, against Mike McDaniel calling the plays, Justin Herbert, as much criticism as he gets for the playoffs,
mm,
this guy can put up 300, 350-yard games with the best of them. He's a quarterback built out of a freaking lab. He's amazing, great talent. Um, I think this is one of those games where the Texans defense is going to play pretty good, but I think Justin Herbert can make a few more plays in this game to win this game for them. I think the
mm,
Texans defense, not to say that they'll struggle, but I think the offense will put a little bit more pressure on them than maybe other offenses that we're going to play this
mm,
season will.
mm,
So I'm going to chalk this up to a loss. Especially it's on the road. So if it was at home, I think I'd probably pick the Texans, but because it's
mm.
on the road in at SoFi Stadium, I think I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one.
I can see that. I would say this is one of my definitive toss ups. It's kind of tough because the Chargers and the Texans, when they've played in the last couple of years, the Chargers defense has made life hard for CJ Stroud. They have. Remember that 24 playoff game where, like, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a worse first half until
Yeah.
CJ and offense turned things around on a broken play. But I mean, you're talking Derwin James looked every bit of an all pro. That defense was lights out. So I think the Chargers, with that still being in place, and as you mentioned, Justin Herbert being who he is, I don't predict it to be a blowout. I think it's gonna be gritty, nasty, um, and it kind of strikes me the same as the Bills, where I feel like the Chargers are kind of due against us because we've escaped a couple times. Um, but I'm gonna disagree. This will be our first disagreement. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I have the Texans actually walking away with this one, which and on my score sheet is they're gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and what 7-1. Yeah, 7-1. Whereas by yours, they would be 6-2. Okay, so Kush, you're at 6-2 at this point, and me, I'm at 7-1. because I will not lose to the Justin Herberts. I will not. Um, week 10, Browns, Texans, who we got? And what could be Deshaun Watson's final attempt to beat the Texans in the NFL? Which, I mean, he's done it before, but still.
Man, I don't know who the darn quarterback is going to be for the Browns at this point in the season. I feel like it's going to be Shadur Sanders, but we can have that conversation another day.
Sure.
Um, I'm going to go with the Texans. In Cleveland, I just don't really trust that offense that Cleveland has. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Texans defense can go in there and easily shut that offense down. Y-
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, you don't have to worry about Myles Garrett anymore.
No, you do not.
I mean, if I had to choose between Jared Verse and Myles Garrett to go up against, no disrespect to Jared Verse, but I'm gonna pick Jared Verse. Myles Garrett is a beast. I think if he were playing in
Mm-hmm.
this game, I I probably would predict a win still, but a lot closer than you know now that he's been traded away.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go with the Texans in this one.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Give me the Texans again. I remember what is that? Was that in 23 or was that in 22? What was that in 23? Was that when Deshaun Watson came here, suspended for 11 games, and then beat us late in the
That
season?
was
Was that
23
22?
or 20, maybe it was 22. I don't remember.
Yeah. No, because I don't. You know what? No, because no, that was 22. That was not 23. Um. Anyway, we're saying all these numbers 22, 23. But yeah, last time the Browns were here, but before the Joe Flacco game. Well, before those two, because we had the playoff game, we whooped them 45-14, and then in the season, that's when the Browns, they pulled out the belt, spanked us in regular season. Before that is when Deshaun came through and he beat us, in a sloppy game that Petrie got a pick off of. I remember that, but that happened. So I do want a little payback right there. I just really want that. I do. So I have the Texans winning there also. So that brings us up to 8-1 for me, 7-2 for Cush's Texans. So next up, week 11, and I want to say this is where the rivalry jerseys will be presented. So Colts Texans week 11 at home. What do we got?
Well, if it's rivalry jersey week, I gotta predict a win on this one. You gotta win in your rivalry jerseys.
Okay.
It's against the Colts, which I mean we talked about it before. A lot of question marks for this team.
Mhm.
I'm The Texans are gonna sweep the Colts.
All right. Short and sweet. I like it. Yep, me too. You got to do it. Rivalry jerseys, and I'm excited for those. I want to see what those are. But yep. So you're at 8-2. I'm at 9-1. Week 12, the Baltimore Ravens, the return of Lamar Jackson, who had to sit back and watch as his teammates got absolutely obliterated, 44-10 last year in Baltimore. So I got this as a loss. I hate to say it. Baltimore has been one of the boogeymen of the Texans, along with the Giants, along with the Eagles, heck, along with the Packers too, which we'll talk about later. Annoyingly, I got to give Baltimore credit. I respect them tremendously. I just think they just play such a smash mouth style of football that a lot of defenses have a hard time with. Not to say that they're just going to like run over the Texans defense, but again, Lamar Jackson, he's an MVP for a reason. He just does things, man, with his legs and low key with his arm. Now that he's developed into more of a an actual quarterback option, that it's kind of pick your poison. And plus, you still got Derrick Henry back there, so I just think annoyingly, Baltimore, they're going to get some payback from last year's debacle, and they're going to beat the Texans and dropping my iteration to 9-2 on the year. But who do you got?
I'm gonna go Baltimore Ravens, especially if Lamar Jackson is healthy and he's playing. Um, I hate to say Lamar Jackson has owned the Houston Texans.
He has. He has.
Uh,
In front of Beyonce. He has.
fun fact about that game. I was actually at that game. I was at the Beyonce Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't very fun. It wasn't a very fun watch. Um, but yeah, I know Baltimore had a down year last year. I don't think they're going to be like this Super Bowl contender
Mm-hmm.
powerhouse team. I think we'll see if they become that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always a tough matchup for the Texans. The Texans always struggle against this team, and I don't see that changing. Um, but you know what? Who knows? Because The Texans did beat the Chiefs last season, late in the season.
Mm,
I know there was a lot of factors surrounding that team in that game, but I'm gonna have to go with the Texans losing to the Ravens. Um, Hopefully, if we play in the playoffs, then we'll beat them. So
mm.
if they have to lose to them into regular season, I think I'll take that.
So it's just so annoying, man. That is one team that like it is a type of it's an admiration filled annoyance where I respect what Baltimore has done with Lamar. I respect what they've built, in this modern era. Honestly, they should have been at least to a Super Bowl in the Lamar Jackson era, and I think they blew it in 2023. Um, but at least against the Texans, I mean, Lamar Jackson is. I mean, he's looked like MVP Lamar against us each and every time.
He's
Even in
spectacular these
bro,
days.
even in that
Spectacular.
playoff game, in 2023, where we didn't really expect to win, but the fact that we went, 10 for 10 with Baltimore and had them tied at halftime, it was like, maybe. And then Lamar said, nah. he he turned it up and
Yeah,
became MVP Lamar. So
as he does, as he does.
right. So, it's annoying, but I'm just giving them their respect. Next game though, much less respect. Texans, Pittsburgh, part two, actually part three, because we beat them in 2023 by like 30 plus to a single digit. But yeah, what do you got, Kush? Week 13, Steelers, Texans.
I'm gonna go Texans. I think they go into Pittsburgh and beat this team again.
Yep.
Um, Aaron Rodgers farewell tour. I don't think it's gonna go well for him on this particular week. I think that defense can go in there and beat him up again. Yeah, I'm going Texans.
Agreed. Agreed. Not much else to add there. I think they send Aaron
It's
Rodgers
a prime
into
time game too, so the Texans got to show out on prime time.
sure. Oh yeah, yeah. You want to show that last year wasn't a fluke. I mean, not to say that 30-6 was a fluke, but you want to go ahead and show up and make it real this time. So give Aaron Rodgers that one last Houston L and move on. Right. So week 14 on the road again. Washington Commanders first time against Jaden Daniels, and this another team from 2022 that the Texans lost to, I believe. And I want to say they had Taylor Heineke under center that game. But anyway, Texans Commanders. Who you got, Kush?
This one's a toss up for me.
Mm.
I just don't know about the Commanders yet.
Hmm.
Jaden Daniels he was injured last year,
Hmm.
and so I don't know what Jaden Daniels we're gonna get this season.
Hmm.
Technically, if you want to look at it this way, it's his sophomore year because he didn't really play a lot last year because of the injuries.
That's true.
Um, I guess Brandon Ayuk is a commander. He keeps saying he's a commander, so maybe they're gonna sign him. I don't know what's going on with that,
That guy.
but I'm I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think they're capable of going into Washington and beating this team. I know Jaden Daniels is a superstar, but this defense shuts superstars down. So I have confidence they can
Mm.
go in there and win.
Ooh, you have Jaden as a superstar. Again, I'm not gonna be a hater, but if Jaden Daniels only had one great season, then he's not a superstar because you know who else had a great one season? CJ Stroud.
Stroud, yeah,
So
you're right.
so
You're right.
if we're gonna be consistent, then hey, what has Jaden Daniels done? you know. But no, being facetious. No, I think you said it perfectly, which is coming off these an injury plagued 2025, you don't really know what sophomore Jaden Daniels looks like, right? I believe he models his game a lot after Lamar Jackson. I think but he's just so much smaller than Lamar. It makes me nervous watching Jaden because again, he's a lot like RG3 used to be built, where like he was one bad hit away from severe injury. And, Lamar, the way that Lamar's avoided it, not being the biggest guy, he just knows how to not get hit. Like that simple and plain. Jaden, he takes contact. Like I've seen him play a couple games and like he is not as good as Lamar at avoiding that big hit. So I just think against this Texans defense that will fly at you with Aziz and Henry and Caden McDonald and that secondary. I just think they're going to make it tough on Jaden. I think they're going to make him really. They're going to dare him to beat them in the air, because they're going to be probably aspire to waiting for him to break the team. So yeah, I got Texans too. And right now our records are at 11-2 me and 10-3 to Kush. So we're both in the double digits now, separated by half a game. So actually, no, that's a lie, by a full game. Jaguars Texans Part 2 Week 15 back at Reliance Stadium. Who you got?
I'm gonna go Texans late in the season. I think the Texans are gonna be in division contention mode. I
Mm.
think this game might be for the division.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna go the Texans. You know, last year we had to hear a lot about that first game against the Jaguars. They barely beat us, and then
Small
that
market
second
energy.
game they were blowing us out, and we came back. And so this thing between the Jags and the Texans has been back and forth. I'm gonna go with the Texans. I say that in mind, kind of knowing that this stretch of games that we're about to predict right here is gonna be the most important of the season,
Hmm.
just because it's going into the playoffs, and you're gonna kind of find out who you are, heading into the playoffs. So I
Yeah.
think they start that off with a win against the Jaguars.
I like how you said that, man, because for those who didn't peep that, yes, if you look from honestly, you could go from week 12 to week 18 if you wanted to. Well, not 18, but 12 to 17. You going Ravens, Steelers, Commanders, Jags, Eagles, Packers. Right?
That's a
Like,
tough stretch, man. That is a tough stretch.
and keep in mind, the Ravens effectively were a playoff team last year. They just, Tyler Loop just missed a field goal kick. Otherwise, the Ravens are in the playoffs facing us in round one. So, for all
Hmm.
intents and purposes, you're facing playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, right? Like that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On top of that, week 11, the Colts. Say what you will, they had a historic offense through like the first 5 to 7 weeks of last year. So, you know, this is a gauntlet on the back end of your schedule. But having said that, I agree. I think you get some payback against Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think you make up for the loss in London, and that brings you up to a record of 12-2 with me, and then 11-3 for you. Next up, this is where I have my third loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. Not because I think the Eagles are just far and away that much better, but to your point that you made about like the Giants kind of game, I just think weirdly this is one of those like not a traditional trap game because the Eagles are a good team, but like just a scheduled loss as it's called, where just because of where you are facing Philly in the schedule, like it's one of those. If you're gonna drop a game, it's gonna be right here against Jalen Hurts in the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as I'm saying that, I forgot that AJ Brown is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. So that potentially might swing my vote, but as it stands right now, I'm gonna leave it as a loss. And my Texans, my version will now be 12-3. But who you got, Kush?
I've been back and forth on this for a while. Pretty much since the schedule came out. And when the schedule came out, I was like, man, that's a loss. Christmas Eve, um,
Oh my goodness.
like you said, the scheduled loss. But I'm feeling a little optimistic today. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna I kind of equate this to the Texans going on the road against the Chiefs last season,
Mm-hmm.
and finally getting that monkey off their back. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's gonna be a similar vibe.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts and that offense, we don't know what it's gonna look like. Obviously, they
Mm-hmm.
have Saquon Barkley, but you mentioned before AJ Brown is gone. They don't have that number one target
Yeah.
anymore. I like Devontae Smith, but again, new offensive coordinator for the Eagles. We don't know what they're gonna look like. Um, I'm gonna pick the Texans to go in there and upset the Eagles.
Okay. Well, now that makes us a match. We're both now 12-3 on the season. Packers week 17. I have this as a win because, it's going to be a bounce back after losing. Probably it was going to be a close one against the Eagles. And I think the Texans finally get some payback for 2024's close loss against Jordan Love of the Packers. But what do you think, Kush? Win or loss?
This is another one where I was back and forth.
Mm,
Packers at Lambeau is always a tough place to play. They almost pulled it off, in 2024, crushing last second field goal to lose that game in a game where neither offense was really that impressive at all. Um, Again, I think this Texans defense travels. they can go anywhere and shut down anyone. I think it's going to be a defensive game.
Mm,
And we talked about CJ Stroud needing to kind of prove to the quote unquote haters he can win big games.
mm,
I think he's got two of them back to back against the Eagles on the road, Packers on the road.
mm,
I think he gets it done in both games. Not to
mm.
say that he has like a 350-yard passing game and four touchdowns and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
I think the offense is going to be able to do enough. I think the defense is going to shut all these guys down all season long, and I'm going to go with the Texans. Some people might say that it's an upset over the Packers. I think another factor with this is Micah Parsons. How healthy is going to be? Is he going
Yeah.
to be? I've seen reports where some people were saying he's not even going to play until like week 5 or week 6. I don't know how true
Mm-hmm.
that is, but another intriguing, interesting matchup, man. I just really want us to beat the Packers. The last time we played them, it just still lives rent free in my head, and man, I got to see the Texans beat the Packers.
Well, I'm gonna say this before we go to who I think we both agree are gonna just the Titans are gonna be the Titans. Um, I think a part of losing to the Packers in 24 is because that was one of those narrative games that Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos got off of you last year, where those who want to prop up Jordan Love are going to say, yeah, they walked down to your defense, and all this stuff. Jordan Love is a turnover machine. He is
Yeah,
a
he didn't play that
highly
well that game.
Bro, he is a high bro. I think he had like what 3 picks or something like that. Like after this, I'm probably
Something
gonna
like
watch
that.
the
Yeah,
highlights again.
yeah.
So it's like you had them beat. It's that you let them walk down the field, and of course, I think this was a game where was it the first game where you did not have Nico, I believe. I know that you were down somebody major in that game in the receiving corps. So, you weren't fully healthy. Jordan Love had multiple turnovers. You should have won that game. You lost it. Okay. But, you just hate losing those games in walk off fashion because, again, the narrative is going to be toward Jordan Love is a top quarterback. What do you expect? And the Packers are this top team. No, 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 no. So I think this is a year where I would like for the Texans to quiet all that noise up. I don't want to see any walk offs here. I don't want to see any quarterbacks making reputation statements against you. No, and I think you and I both agree. I think the Packers are going to hold that L at this later stage in the season, which I think in our scenario, I hesitate to say this, but I think that the Texans at this point at 13-3 apiece, they might be in contention for the 1 seed at this point. If things go according to what we're saying, like the Titans game in week 18 could definitely be a like they could be playing for the 1 seed, so they got to choose who they're going to play against the Tennessee Titans, who they're not going to play. Or they could be clinching the 1 seed in against the Packers in week 17, and we see nothing but second and third stringers in week 18. But regardless, Kush, we got week 18 against the Tennessee Titans. Who do we have to wrap up?
I mean, whatever the scenario is, whether they're playing for the 1 seed, whether they have certain things locked up, whether they decide to rest guys, I think they're going to get a win against the
Mm-hmm.
Titans. From the Titans' perspective, I don't think this game is going to mean much as far as like uh, draft selection for them because I don't think they're going to be bad enough to where they're going to be playing for the number one pick late in the season. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to be good
Right.
enough to where they're gonna feel motivated enough to have to win this game to potentially make the playoffs or anything like that. So
Mm.
I think the Texans win this one.
And as do I, sir. So at the end of our schedule prediction, you and I both, for different reasons, have the Texans going 14-3 after all that, which would more than shatter the single season wins record. It would give them the best record. I mean, sorry, the best regular season in franchise history. They might get the 1 seed, which again, best season in franchise history, and then that would put them 1 game away from getting to their first conference championship game in franchise history.